What if I told you you could seriously boost your cycling performance with a simple 3-ingredient drink you can make right in your own kitchen? Forget those expensive pre-made formulas. This is pure science. Okay, let's get into it.
We're talking about a potential performance improvement of up to 8%. Now, you might be thinking, what does that even mean? Well, let's put it this way. On a 3-hour ride, you're looking at shaving off over 14 minutes. In a race, that is not a marginal gain. That is a total, absolute game changer.
And here's the best part. This huge leap in performance doesn't come from some secret, super expensive formula from a high-tech lab. Nope, this massive jump comes from simply understanding the science and mixing 3 basic ingredients in your kitchen. You get total control and you'll save a ton of cash. Win-win.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll dig into that 8% secret. Then, we'll look at how your body uses fuel, fats versus carbs. After that, we'll unlock the magic of dual-carb power, touch on why sodium and gut training are so important, and then, the moment you've been waiting for, the super simple DIY recipe.
All right, let's jump right in. The 8% performance secret. We really need to get our heads around the stakes here. I mean, a gain this big? It's literally the difference between getting dropped on a climb and staying right there in the mix.
So, to chase down that 8%, you've got to understand the 2 engines running your body, fat and carbohydrates. And trust me, how you fuel these 2 engines, that is the absolute key to everything.
And here's the fundamental trade-off, right? Think of your fat stores as this giant, almost endless fuel tank. The problem? It's like a slow-burning log, steady, but not super efficient for hard efforts. Carbs, on the other hand, that's the high-octane rocket fuel. It's ready to go, burns super fast, but your tank is tiny, and it empties out fast.
And you can see that trade-off play out right here. Look, when you're just cruising along at a lower intensity, say 65% of your max, your body's happily burning a good mix of fat and carbs. But watch what happens when you really ramp it up, at 85% and higher. Your body flips a switch. It goes almost exclusively for the carbs. So the takeaway is crystal clear. When you go hard, you absolutely need carbohydrates. The only problem is you're going to run out. And that brings us to the breakthrough. It's called dual carb power. This is the science that lets us basically hack our body's natural fueling limits. It's how we solve that running on empty problem for good.
You see, for years, the rule was simple: 60 grams of carbs per hour. That was the barrier. You could chug all the sports drinks in the world, but your body just couldn't absorb more. And the reason why is pretty cool, actually. You have these little doorways in your gut. They're called SGLT1 transporters, and they're just for glucose. But once they're full, they're full. It creates a total traffic jam, a bottleneck.
So how do we bust through that bottleneck? Well, stick with me on this highway analogy. That glucose doorway, that's a 1-lane road. It gets backed up fast. But what scientists figured out is that a different sugar, fructose, has its own completely separate lane, a different doorway called the GLUT5 transporter. So by taking in both glucose and fructose, you're essentially opening up a second lane. You're turning a single-lane country road into a 2-lane superhighway. And bam! You can potentially double your fuel delivery up to 120 grams an hour. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Hold on, isn't fructose the bad guy? And look, that's a totally fair question. If you're sitting on the couch, yeah, too much can be a problem. But when you're an athlete mid-effort, your body is a completely different machine. Your muscles are screaming for fuel. That glucose and fructose, it gets burned for energy immediately. It doesn't even get a chance to think about being stored as fat. For us, it's a huge performance asset. Okay, so we've built our fuel superhighway, but for the traffic to flow smoothly, we need 2 more things, 2 critical support systems, sodium and a gut that's been trained for the job. These 2 things are what make this whole high-carb fueling strategy actually work.
Yeah, we all know sodium helps with cramps and fluid balance. But here's the part that most people miss, and it is crucial for fueling. Remember that glucose lane, the SGLT1 transporter? It literally cannot work without sodium. It's like the key that unlocks the door. If you don't have enough sodium in your drink, your whole carb superhighway just grinds to a halt.
The other piece of the puzzle is what we call gut training. And no, you can't just jump from 0 to 120 grams an hour on your next ride. That would be a disaster. But the really amazing thing is how fast your gut adapts. It's just like training a muscle. You apply progressive overload. Within just a few days, your stomach actually starts to empty faster. A week or 2 later, your body is physically building more of those little fuel doorways. Your gut is a totally trainable system.
All right, we've gone deep on the science, the why behind all this. So now, let's get to the how. This is the part I know you've been waiting for. We're going to build the simple, super effective DIY recipe that puts all this science right into your water bottle.
So here are the 3 essential ingredients. That's it. For our glucose source, we're going to use maltodextrin. Why? Because it's way less sweet than table sugar and it's just easier on the stomach. For that second fuel pathway, plain old fructose powder. And for our sodium, we're going to use sodium citrate. It tastes a lot less salty than table salt and your body absorbs it better. Simple as that.
Okay, let's look at the actual recipes. We've got 3 great options here, and they're all measured out for one standard 500 milliliter bottle, which you'd aim to drink each hour. The easy pace is exactly where you should start. It's perfect for those Zone 2 rides and for beginning that gut training process. Then you've got the moderate intensity mix, a fantastic workhorse for longer efforts, especially if you sweat a lot. And finally, the high intensity mix. That's your rocket fuel for race day. But remember, you have to earn the right to use this one.
And listen, I'm going to say this again because it is so important. You have to start slow. Begin with that easy pace recipe on your normal training rides. Then, over several weeks, you can gradually increase the concentration. You have to treat your gut like any other muscle you're training. Progressive overload is the absolute key to success, and to avoiding some, let's just say, very unpleasant GI issues.
So, there you have it. The science, the simple ingredients, and the exact formula to potentially boost your performance by a massive 8%. It's not complicated, it's incredibly effective, and it puts the kind of sports science the pros use right in your hands. So the only real question left is, what are you going to put in your bottle for your next ride?